Alright, today we're going to create the wheel for the train. And first I'm going to look at the drawing. This is the only time I'm going to refer to the drawing. So do have a set of the drawings nearby that you can look at either on your screen or on your desk in front of you. A couple things I want to point out about this drawing is that everything is dimensioned off of the center axis that goes through the hub of the wheel. So kind of like not a solid feature that you would be measuring from. Okay, so it's more like a point in space. And everything is measured from that. Also is that we have chopped out a quarter of the wheel here, and we're actually using just the profile, just a quarter of the profile to make this wheel. So once we create that profile, then we use what's called a revolve feature to revolve around the center axis and create the rest of the wheel. After we create the wheel, of course, we'll come back and we will add the slots, and then we will add the linkage arm. So let's get started in Inventor. I want to create new, standard IPT, create, and sketch, XY plane. Go ahead and claim that point right there in the center of the screen is our center reference. So we're going to design everything kind of off of that point. Starting with a basic line. I'll zoom out a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to go a little above that dot. Draw a line that's approximately 1 inch long. Doesn't have to be exact yet. We're going to make all the exactings later. Escape out of the line tool and then go to the circle tool and just put a circle here. I'm going to go ahead and dimension the circle. The circle represents the radius of the tire. The radius of the tire is 0.125 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 0.25 inches, which is double that radius, so I can get my dimension. My diameter. Now that I have my circle created, I'm going to escape out of the circle tool, go to constraints. I'm going to create a concentric constraint. So the rim of the circle concentric to this line. And next I'm going to create a horizontal constraint, and I'm going to constrain the very tip of the line that I drew to the center point of the circle. Now it's in the right place. Next I'm going to roughly draw the outline of the rim, and I'm not going to put any dimensions on this. Only thing I'm going to do is snap onto some geometry that's already there. So I know I want the center point here. I want the center point of that circle and then the edge of the circle to start my line. And then I'm just going to go down here and draw shapes. I know I want the rim to be half the diameter of that circle. Click, lock in there. Alright, so there we have a rough diameter of the wheel. I'm going to start with my outermost measurements here and constrain everything. And if you look at the drawing again, you can see that starting from the center point right here, the center axis, to the center point of this circle, and on the wheel it just looks like part of the tire, that is going to be 1 inch. So from here to here is 1 inch. Alright, and I want to reclaim that point by escape from dimension and grab the point there and go up. I need to stay above that so that everything works like I want to when I'm making it. Next thing I want to do is dimension to the outer lip of the rim, and that dimension is going to be 0.75. 0.75. Alright, and lastly I'm going to measure to the outside lip of the hub to that center point, which is 0.25, and I get that information from my drawing. Alright, and lastly, I think I probably said that was last, but actually there's one more we want to dimension, and that is the basically the distance from the center point to the inside face of the hub. And I have to think here what size to make that. The drawings don't tell you what size to make it. Um, but you can there are several things you can look at that will give you that information. For one, we know that the center of that wheel, or the center point to the outer lip here is 0.25. Okay, and if I look at the drawing, then I know that's right dead center of the hub is where that reference line is. So I'm thinking that this is probably half of 0.250, which is 0.125. So the distance from here to here should be 1.125. Another thing you can think about is the axles that you've made and the holes for the axle on the train body. Those were all drawn at a quarter of an inch or 0.25. So I have several things there that tells me that that's more than likely that hub is going to be 0.25 inches round. Of course, here I'm only dealing with half of that hub, so I'm going to cut that in half and measure it at 0.125. Okay, so actually the other half of that hub, the inside of the hub, is going to be down here. And you'll see what I mean once I actually revolve this. Next, we will place our fillets. And when you're placing these fillets, you can just kind of come to the corner and you should get a preview of the fillet, and you can click on the corner and it makes the fillet. Same thing here on this corner. And of course, if you don't get a preview by going to the corner, then you can just click on the line and then click on the other line to make the fillet. Sometimes the computer, for some reason, doesn't always do that. That one took, and this one doesn't, so click here on that line and click on that other fillet. And now we're looking at somewhat of a profile of that rim. Alright, let's see, what do we need to do next? Is we need to revolve this. And actually, I need to go backwards here. I didn't set my fillets to the right size. Again, looking at my drawing, I'll see on my drawing that these fillets, or it shows one fillet, actually this one, measured at 0.0625, and you see that below the wheel it says R0.065, and below it says TYP. That TYP stands for typical, meaning it's, typically that's the size of these radiuses that are on this type of geometry. So it doesn't have to be exact, but we're just going to go ahead and type in, or I'm going to actually have to just go in and edit my dimensions to 0.0625. And I always tend to forget things when I'm working on this stuff here. So that actually, oops, yeah, that's right. That actually turned everything, that went ahead and adjusted all of the fillets when I did that. The computer's pretty smart there, smarter than I am. So now we have all our fillets are good. What we do have to fix, though, however, is we got to fix this is no longer constrained to half of the diameter for that circle. So I'm going to constrain that from here to here to 0.125, and that completes things. Double check that, and that's good. Cancel. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove some geometry. I don't need the bottom part of this circle, which represents the tire, because when I revolve this, that circle is going to mess things up, and it's going to think it's not part of a closed loop. So I'm going to go in here, grab these scissors, the scissor tool, which is a trim tool, and I'm going to hover over the line of the circle. You see how it has the dotted line or the hash marks, and if I click on that, then it just takes away that bottom part of the circle. Next is I want to create another line, but this is going to be a construction line, basically a fake line, and this is where I choose to turn that line into a construction line. And I want to draw that line right here on the center axis. This is that center axis coming through. That's what I'm going to revolve around and get on that. So now we can finish sketch and go to create and revolve. Normally the the program selects the profile there. I don't know why it didn't do it this time, but there's our profile that we're going to revolve. And then we got to click here to go to our axis again. That normally happens automatically. I don't know why it's not doing it this time, but here's our center axis. Remember that construction line that we drew? So that's what we want to revolve around. And click OK, zoom out, and there's my wheel.